You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 30, Beyond Strategy with Ingrid Pyka.
Writing is difficult, but it is worth the effort. Kevin Tomlinson can help you develop a daily writing habit that will let you write your book, improve your website, and build or grow your business. Visit kevintomlinson.com and start writing now.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. And you shouldn't be surprised by that. You just heard the whole intro. What are you thinking? So this week, I'm actually talking to someone she's become a friend of mine. I enjoy talking to her. We've had a few conversations back and forth. She's missing out on a chance today, actually, right as I record this, to talk with me and Nick Thacker on the Self-Publishing Answers podcast because, and I'm going to go ahead and announce this, but Nick is now a new father. So congratulations to Nick. He had a little girl. I'm not gonna announce her name or anything. I don't want to take away from the from that part of his his announcement. But he and his wife have had a little girl. It's their first kid, and she was born healthy and strong, and probably has great lungs. So congratulations to my good friend Nick, and thanks to Ingrid for being very very considerate and being willing to reschedule her interview on that show. But she didn't have to reschedule this interview. We had a chance to talk about her business, which is called Beyond Strategy, where she helps entrepreneurs. I mean, she's really she's got that mindset to go out and help people who want to build the sort of businesses that you're probably wanting to build. The kind of business that lets you leverage your expertise and your authority to create something good in the world. So great talking to her. We'll get to her interview in just a moment. If you have had a chance or have not had a chance, go check out wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can catch up on back episodes of this show. You can learn a little more about me and my work. And you can also leave me a voicemail. I would really like for people to start doing that. I did actually get one voicemail. Let me see if I can cue that up.
Kevin Tomlinson is a big dumb oaf.
Well, there you go. The first official call on the Wordslinger podcast, and I couldn't agree more. And that call comes from Nick Thacker, who is my good friend and a proud new papa. Thanks, Nick, for helping out, man. I think he took a little pity on me because I never seem to get calls. Now, occasionally I'll get an email or something along those lines, but it's never a question or anything. It's always just sort of a it's not even usually like a, hey, great job or whatever. It's usually sort of a, hey, I saw your podcast, which it's not, that's great. And I love it. Keep it up. I love hearing from you guys. And I like the kudos if I can get them. But give me some meat here, man. I'll read a question on the show or whatever. And if you want to praise the show, I'll read that or play that too. So if you want, you can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673, where you can leave me a voicemail. And if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can also leave a voicemail straight from the site if you'd rather use your computer or if that's your main access. You can do that from your phone as well. You can go to the site on your phone and you can get the SpeakPipe app, which will let you leave voicemails. So a couple of ways to do that. And you can email me from that site as well. So go check that out. And while you're there, so I have a Patreon campaign that helps me support the show, and it does take time each week to produce this. There's a lot that goes into it, and every hour that I spend on this show is an hour I'm not working with clients or writing a book or writing a blog post, the other parts of my life and business and the things that I really am passionate about. So I am extremely passionate about this show. I'll probably do it forever, regardless of whether it ever pays me a dime. But there are a few people out there who are generously donating cash to the cause, and that does help. The more I can make to kind of help out with the overhead on this, the easier it is to keep it going. So if you find this content valuable, It will allow me to do more and even improve the show over time if I can justify slicing off time to work on it. So I appreciate you going and checking it out. It's sort of like a pledge drive kind of thing. You just go chip in whatever you feel comfortable doing. So it could be as little as $1. Some people are throwing in a lot more than that. I appreciate that. So help out. I appreciate it. And for if you do, I will. I'm going to figure out a way to give back here. There's got to be something I can do for you in return. Just to say thank you. I'm sure there is. I'll think of something. So if you have suggestions, why not let me know? Well, let me know. Call me at 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673, and you can, if that's what you want to talk about, let me know some ideas for, giving back. In fact, I'd love to open up that kind of discussion. If you have advice, I always ask for questions, but maybe that's just not the right approach. What if you have some advice? Have you heard one of the episodes and you have something you'd like to add to that conversation? Then pop in and tell me all about it. If you agree or you want to add something or you disagree and you want to detract from something, give me a shout out. I don't want to start debates and I don't want things to be negative, so I appreciate kind of keeping it positive and upbeat. But, if you disagree, give me some reasons. I mean, it may be a valid point. I'm happy to bring that in. So go ahead and do that. And while we're at it, will you please do me a favor? Will you please go to iTunes and you can go to your iTunes app on your iPhone or something along those lines. If you'll go to iTunes and find the show, search for Word Slinger Podcast, and go and rate it. Give it, I would hope for 5 stars, but if you don't feel it's worth that, I understand. But I'd also like a written review. Those things help these shows get discovered. They help them find a new audience. And I really feel like what I'm doing here, I feel like it's important. I feel like I'm talking to people who have a perspective that can benefit others, that can inspire and give insight. And I want people to know about this stuff. These guests, I want them also to get that exposure. So you're not just helping me, you're helping them. So will you please do that for me? Will you go to iTunes and rate the show and write a written review? And then, would you tell 2 friends, just go tell 2 friends about the show and get the word out there. And I really appreciate that. And like I said, I'm going to try to find ways to repay you for that generosity. And mostly I want to be able to offer you the very best show I can. So, and I can continue doing that. And it's a lot easier if I've got people tuning in. So please do that. If you haven't already, go to wordslingerpodcast.com. You can subscribe to the show there and pass that URL around and just, invite 2 people to listen. And then maybe they'll invite 2 people. And that's the way this grows, right? So all that said, we've got all the housekeeping out of the way. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening to that part. Now let's get to the part that really matters. We're going to have our conversation with Ingrid Pyka of Beyond Strategy. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. And this week I'm talking to Ingrid Pyka, who is let's see. She's got a long title just like me. She's a national consultant, a speaker, author, and independent publisher. And those last 2, of course, are particular favorites of mine, but I'm keen on consultants and speakers too. So how are you doing, Ingrid?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. How are you today, Kevin?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, I'm pleased to be here. Definitely an honor.
Now, you've got, there's a lot going on with you. And you're like so many of the consultants and speakers and authors that I know. Like you're kind of dipping your fingers into just about everything. So why don't we start by telling me a little bit, because you've got your business is Beyond Strategy, which is a consulting, is a firm? Is it how would you describe it?
Yeah, I do consider it as kind of a resource firm. Essentially, when the consulting that I do, there's such a gray line between coaching and consulting because a lot of success is really based on mindset itself. We've got people that, in small businesses, the average age is like 50 years old. and most of them are 45 years plus. And so there's been a whole history of experiences that they've had throughout their careers and throughout their industry that they now are flipping into a leadership role. And sometimes the barriers of, oh boy, how do I actually make this into the vision that I have? Can I do this? Overcoming those fears and walls and developing it. There's a real mindset. So we work a lot with the with the actual coaching facet of creating a mindset, creating a vision of forward propulsion. And then the actual strategies of consulting of, okay, how does each step fit into the industry, into the economy, into the market that my clients are heading towards.
So who are your clients?
My clients will range anywhere from the solopreneur, whether they be in the multi-level marketing level, up to the small business teams, where we will have people that are 50 business or 50 staff members or less, and building up that team on different management levels or different roles within the company. Generally, my preference is I really want to focus on the small business.
Yeah.
So we're looking at gross revenues annually between $500,000 to $1.5 million, but a lot of them actually, there's a good percentage that are in less than that $500,000. Again, those are the startup businesses that are developing their role in the community.
Yeah. So, okay, why small businesses, though? And why the entrepreneurs?
Well, kind of a history of my cultural background on that. Both of my parents grew up in Germany during World War II, and they actually lived through post-World War II in Germany and putting themselves through school, and came to America after all of the endeavors there. And when they came to America, they probably are the most staunch patriots to our country, basically because of the opportunities that it offers to every individual that's here.
Yeah.
And that hard-working, the old German background, but the hard-working goals, and seeing how corporate, they have plenty of their resources that they can tap into. They've got the funding, they have the budget, but those that don't have that ability, they need that one-on-one attention, and they don't have the multifaceted background, the resources, to understand human resources, to really get the fact of how accounting and how budgeting, how revenue streams can make a difference. What is the role in marketing and the different components of the audience or the target market you're reaching? Psychographics, communication. There's so many facets that the one entrepreneur or solopreneur has a harder time reaching.
So what do you do when you're working with the entrepreneurs? Like, what sort of services do you give them?
You could almost look at it as a project manager.
Okay.
And so my background is I'm a veterinarian, small animal veterinarian.
You know what? Okay, first, that's cool. And second, you have a photo on your website, and when I first saw that photo, I thought, she looks like a veterinarian, and I'm not even joking. And that's not, I hope that didn't sound derogatory. I actually meant it as a compliment.
I would like to know what those characteristics are.
I don't know. There was just something about your photo that said veterinarian to me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll have to look at that photo again and really assess it from a different angle.
I don't think that's a bad thing, but you go ahead.
Well, I will definitely take it as a compliment. Thank you, Kevin. The nuances of being in a medical profession, it derives the analytical precision, truly understanding who your patient is. And in my current career, it's the business. Yeah. What is the business? What are they wanting to accomplish? Who are they reaching? What are the components? What is the anatomy of this organization? Then doing the diagnostics and the examination, the same as when I have a little poodle or a fluffy coming into my exam room, and I'm doing a full examination, doing whichever x-rays or blood tests are necessary, the same dynamics occur in a small business. These then translate into surveys of clients, interviewing the staff, understanding why a management team is making certain decisions or taking a particular path. These are all potentials and understanding the true nuances of how the physiology of that business is working or not. Then we develop a treatment plan. In the treatment plan, again, we have these strategic steps that we are planning to implement in that business. How is every team member delivering the goods to the end user? How is the communication occurring between the different levels of that organization? And finally, of course, the rechecks. Doctors always want to see our patients afterwards to assess and reassess and recheck those logs and those statistics and the data that we've done, the reports. We're repolling those, repolling the market, re-interviewing the staff members, and looking at those specific data points, revenues, expenses, what are the true numbers. So it's really the same cycle.
You're just looking at the health of the business rather than the health of the organism.
Exactly. But they all fit together and flow together, and without one functioning, it causes a severe detriment to the other. I mean, it is a handicap if the entire organization is not working as a unit.
Yeah. So that makes me curious, like, what prompted the switch from veterinarian to consultant?
Well, as a child, I always loved animals, and I still do. I still certainly do little relief shifts here and there because I have to keep my fingers furry.
Yeah.
I could never let go. I will always be a veterinarian. As I first was deciding on which career path to take as a youngster, I realized, or I believed I did not like people, but I love animals. So, of course, the natural course of action was going into veterinary school. Then, luckily, before I even got into the veterinary programs, I understood very clearly that I actually did like people a lot and working with people and helping people. And even though I was working as a veterinarian, my biggest connections were with the owners.
Right.
Yes, I would have a dog coming in, and we do the eye contact and communications, and we establish that language. But the entire family was truly who I was focusing on. And I worked in a nonprofit hospital. It's the Colorado's largest nonprofit veterinary hospital as the hospital director, where I had a myriad of clients, people that were CEOs that had been laid off, business owners that had one car accident and it put an end to their career, people that were disadvantaged financially and that were still fighting to live in a normal life in a setting where they can embody the bond with their animals.
Yeah.
And when I saw patient after patient coming into my examination room with minor medical issues that did not have the very basic preventive medicine that we always would recommend for the overall health. And I'd recommend those vaccinations, for example, to the pet owner, and I'd explain, well, parvo is actually a fatal disease a lot of the time, a high percentage. We really need to get your pup up to date. And they would hem-haw a little bit, ask what the costs were involved, and when I explained what the investment level was, they would gladly agree. Of course, yes. When I went back to my receptionist and I would ask them, you have the same information I do. Why are you not already offering them this preventive care that they're obviously so gladly agreeing to? The response I got was, well, they can't afford it. This was from the receptionist making a decision. So it just ingrained more and more and more that the underlying core of any business, whether it's a pizza parlor, whether it's a salon, whether it's a financial investment group, or whether we're talking about, again, veterinary medicine, the core values of the business is to serve that consumer and to be there for the client, not making decisions for them, but to educate them.
Right.
And the process in any of the management is to educate its own staff to be able to fulfill that pattern.
Yeah, you want to establish some sort of a sense of personal ownership for the employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned earlier you made a distinction between coaching and consulting. What is the difference between the two?
There is very much of a gray line on that, and it depends on who you speak to. Personally, my belief is that the coaching component is more of the mindset. You cannot cross a line unless you've decided to do that.
Right.
There is a door that is open in any direction you look, but unless you choose to head that direction, move one foot in front of the other, and actually cross that barrier, you will not move forward at all. And part of that is the actual delineation of specifics, whether it be a vision or a goal, or breaking it down into what is actually going to be necessary to make your widget. Mm-hmm. What is it necessary to bring this widget into the hands of your end user? And those become more the consulting performa, where we're looking at hard numbers, we're looking at true marketing ideals, we're looking at the statistics and the data and the step-by-step rules. Again, that shifts over to more of a consulting component,
I see,
in my opinion. So it's the systems or the consulting, the actual mindset is the coaching.
I like
you can
that.
do it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that distinction, and you're right. It is a gray area. I have that same trouble in my own work, and I refer to myself now as a consultant, but I've actually been thinking of adding, coach back in there, just because there is a component here of, I work with people mostly about writing and building authority through writing, and there's that coaching aspect that is touching them in their personal lives. Or getting them to make a sort of personal commitment to it. So I can see the distinction.
And absolutely, yeah. And especially when you're working with any individual, and this is regardless of which industry, whether you are in this coaching/consulting arena or whether you are selling an actual retail item, the key reason why your clients and customers will come back to you is because of the relationship.
Yeah.
And that feeds into what is it about them? It's how can you make them happy? How can you help solve their problems? What is the gap in their life that what you're providing to them will fill? And that's why they're more than happy to invest into you and what you offer.
Yeah. Now, do you find yourself doing like free consulting every now and then, or getting caught in it, or?
Oh yeah.
I'm asking for a friend. No, I am. Seems to be a common. So I work. It's odd. A lot of my clients are coaches now, and that's a common problem. It's a problem I have too, where you bill yourself out as a coach or consultant, and people start talking to you, and then there's that awkward moment when you realize no one's talked about money, and now it's too late to ask. So how do you work around that issue?
Exactly. Well, the way that you can get around that is there are various programs, and even in the medical field, and whether it's an attorney or an accountant or a physician or, again, veterinarian, it's bound. You're just in the grocery store, someone finds out what you do, and then they're going to ask the inevitable question. Yeah. And certainly building the rapport and the relationship, because it is the person that I'm interested in. I want to help them. I want to see them succeed.
Right.
And we can give superficial information anytime, but it's not going to be implementable, and it's not going to be truly understood by that individual unless it goes to the next level. Yeah. And what is that next level? In fact, we had a group discussion yesterday about just specifically what does it mean to move to the next level, and that is the engagement. And it is impossible to have true engagement and success in a quick conversation over the phone call or over a brief coffee or so. It is a long-term process, and what I will do is and this is something that I had to learn as well as a coach consultant, not having a steadfast widget or a menu, so to speak, initially to say here's what I offer and this is the investment. It transitions to my time is extremely valuable, and I have chosen to use my time to provide a service to someone that will make their life better, and that will make their business better, and that will make their clients have better value for what they're receiving. And chunking it into an actual unit of value is something that every service provider can do. So in other words, Kevin, for you, you're offering people the value of recognizing how their writing, how their message can reach someone else and help them. That has value.
Yeah, it's just so. You mentioned a menu. Like, do you recommend having something like that? Because I'll tell you what happens. This is the personal perspective, and I've talked to other clients who have this happen too. You meet someone, you network and you connect with someone, and then you have a conversation. They say, "Hey, would you like to meet for coffee?" Or you say it. You set up these coffee shop meetings, and you're really giving them the same information that you're going to give them if they were paying you for it. So, but it was so casual that you don't feel comfortable charging. So is this a lead in and you hand them a menu of services, or you say, hey, this was a great conversation. If you'd like to kind of take this up a notch, go, check out this page, or hey, take this business card, or.
Well, yeah, and time is our most valuable asset because we cannot replace that. Right? Mm-hmm. So even when we go into a coffee, and this is what I recommend to people when I give workshops or when on time management or when I work with my clients, is that time is an asset, and it's the most valuable resource you have, and you have to consider that as something that you cannot just give away, whether it's because you're giving away your services or whether you're giving it away to just be bored. I mean, if that's a value to you, great, but everything has to be a value. So when I set up a meet, excuse me, an example for a coffee, which I prefer chai. I don't know why everybody's on a coffee kick.
I don't judge. I just drink the coffee.
And one other thing that this is a total sideline, again, representing the small business industry. If you look within your community, you will find plenty of small, non-franchised or even some of the franchised, but locally owned coffee shops versus the chains. And again, just by doing that, you are supporting the small business industry of our United States.
And I like that idea a lot. I'm going to take a stand and stand behind that idea.
Wonderful.
And I'm
the
meeting
more
someone
people
for
we
coffee.
Get on board that.
Yeah, right after this call, I'm actually running over to meet somebody, and we're going to a small local coffee shop / bakery, and so I'm going to wear that with pride.
Wonderful. I thank you so much. And every time someone says, well, we'll meet at a certain chain, I gently give them, this is my principal. This is where I can meet you. And it's close enough. And I've got my entire map of where I meet my class. But
you can
back
say
to your original question.
You don't have to cover up the name of that chain, by the way.
Well, certain people have their preferences, and
okay.
I allow people their own choices.
All right.
But back to your original question is, how do you avoid giving away your services? Whenever I have a meeting, the first thing that I start out, and sometimes even when we schedule this session, is what do you intend to get out of this when we are complete? When after our 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 50 minutes, what do you intend to have accomplished? And generally the answer is, well, I want to get to know you and so forth. I said, well, that's great.
Yeah.
I want to get to know you too. But most importantly, I want to get to know how I can help you. Not I want to help you, but I want to know how I can help you.
Yeah.
And that is just that insertion of that one word, how, makes it more a discovery phase.
Yeah.
That discovery phase is providing them with very little information, but it allows you to do an even better job when they start asking the questions, when they start inserting, well, how do I? I would love to do that for you. But the same way that a neurosurgeon will do brain surgery on you, they're not going to just chop you open and go in there and poke some needles here and there. And an accountant will just do your taxes. They need to understand the big picture.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here is getting to know you, and I do not want to do a disservice and advise you incorrectly. So let's set up a session, and I have various opportunities depending on what your needs are and how you feel most comfortable. Some people like that one-on-one. Others prefer a group session. Others prefer an ongoing relationship. And that's when we have the talk about what is it they're looking for, what fits their budget, not just financially, but also time-wise.
Yeah.
And mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think I see, because part of my hang up sometimes is that I like meeting people for coffee. I like, hooking up and talking about whatever, getting to know each other. And then, the problem was always converting that. So, the clients who come to me specifically for coaching, that's an easy sell. The clients who come to me because we met at an event and, they don't necessarily think of me as a potential coach, that one's a little harder to convert. So I like the approach of, hey, yeah, let's definitely meet for coffee. I'd like to find out how I could help your business. I like that idea.
And one thing that and you've touched on a very key point too, on getting to know people for just longer term and networking. Having an appropriate relationship with as many people as we can expand into our sphere is the most valuable resource that we can do as well, second to time management. But the fact is that you never know what one person can do and who one person knows.
Right.
You know the old adage is, it's not who you know, it's not what do they know, it's who they know.
Yeah.
I actually take it one step further. It's who they know, what they know, who they know. Does that make sense? So
I'm going to have to write that one down to deconstruct it.
Yeah, it's who they know of who they know and what they know.
Yeah.
Because you know the average of 250 people, the average that are in your sphere, and you exponentially increase that when you consider that of each of those 250, they know 250.
Right.
So now, if you are looking for someone, for example, that knows how to highlight making high gloss book covers that have purple splash on them and that feature hikers, for example, then for you to find that person in 250 is going to be difficult.
Right.
But you keep expanding that, and that's where the value of social media comes into place. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You mentioned Twitter early on before we started the interview. Is an invaluable way to reach out.
Yeah.
So when we're doing these coffees or one-on-ones or any networking event, developing the relationships that are just incredible. Can I share a story?
Yeah, anytime. Yeah,
Cool.
This is all about story. Go ahead.
So one of the best examples that I have on this is I was at a local chamber networking event where we got to go to a local amusement park. We thought, yay, awesome! I get to go inside of the amusement park for free. I'm going to be in there, talk to like 3 people, and take off, right? Because then I get to play. Well, we went in, and I was standing around, and there was one individual, and he immediately, I could see he was passing out his business card, just passing it to people. And he, of course, then he gets to me in the lineup, and he's handing me his business card, and he's saying, I think you need to consider using me because I can provide you with the best financial advice, and blah, 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 blah. The person had no idea who I was, no idea what my financial status was, if it was great or not great. They had no idea what I did and how I was acquiring any of the funding that I have.
Yeah.
And he continued to go down the line, and he would be that type that would just kind of hone in on people and just keep talking until they edged themselves away.
Yeah.
Have you ever had those?
Oh, yeah.
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 So I happened to stand right next to another individual, and I noticed he was watching him as well. And we just kind of we started talking, we started chatting, and you alluded that I have the independent publishing, and yes, so I was in the process of having the book printed and so forth at the time. So as we were talking, and I asked what he did and such, turns out that not only does he do printing, but he also, which is great because that was applicable to me at the time, but he also happened to be the vice president of a national commercial real estate firm. So this man, before he had started his other business, was going to New York and back and forth in New York, and he had his national reach with obviously quite a bit of knowledge. Well, I offer workshops, and in my workshops, I pull in experts from the different fields. Well, when I asked him, well, gosh, you obviously have great knowledge on marketing, right? And he said, well, I tend to be hired for such, yes, humbly spoken. I asked him, would you be willing to speak at my workshop? He said, absolutely. Now, if he had simply told me that he does printing,
Yeah.
would I have understood or found that?
No, that you would have tabbed him as he's in printing, and that would have been
Exactly.
it.
And that would have been it.
Yeah.
That was 3 years ago. He and I still do business together in multiple ways. I have sent over referrals for people to work with him, for him, as a marketing consultant, people from many different facets. And it was simply because we were talking not about what we did, but who we were.
Yeah. I like that story because of the irony of it. Because it starts with that guy handing out his business cards, trying to do exactly what you did in a conversation that started because this guy was handing out business cards across from you. That's hilarious.
Yep, yep.
So
and it's an art that many people, unfortunately, still do not quite understand how important relationships are in maintaining who you are, not just in your business, but in life.
Right.
As a whole in life.
It took me years to get around to the idea because I used to have that mentality. I used to be the guy handing out the business cards. I was I was taking the shotgun approach to trying to get clients, and I just kind of put myself out there and hope people came. And it took years to realize that the best opportunities that came to me were coming through my more personal network, the people that I had coffee with, the people that I could, call up and talk about, my cat being sick or whatever. So, that's exactly right. I think that's your real network, is that group of people that you can connect with on a personal level.
Exactly. And as Tony Robbins has said, successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it's with those answers that you can then move forward and work. And, it's really about them and how can you help other people.
So that leads to, how are you marketing your business? Like what's your primary and fallback marketing tool?
The local, when I'm looking at local versus national, there's you definitely delineate that differently.
Okay.
But if we're focusing on local, which I don't know where most of the people are focusing on that you work with, but we're talking authorship, likely most looking for national approaches. When you head towards the national, you're still going to need to have some credibility and building your resume. And so that's where the local becomes such a strong support for you and the foundation. And using the chambers, the Chamber of Commerce's in your area, you can join more than one.
Yeah.
The referral networks, getting out and speaking in front of, and we all, I don't know if you're familiar with, well, you may be, the number one fear of all people, almost all, like 96% is?
Public speaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
They fear it more than death.
Yeah. That is not the case for me. But
Yeah. No, actually, you're right. It is the second.
Yeah.
But going out and utilizing those local components and outreach, what I do for my consulting and my coaching is I offer various opportunities. When I know of individuals that might benefit from a group session, I'll definitely invite them to come to my group, and I call them workbenches, where it's kind of like a mastermind, a roundtable mastermind, but we do focus on particular topics so that if someone, for example, April, we're working on videos, and you're huge on this, but doing the videos and learning, okay, how do you even answer a question? How simple is it to take your telephone and record yourself answering a question, or record someone else doing a testimonial on you?
Yeah.
Because that's the most powerful referral tool, when people hear others speaking about you.
Yeah.
And how to then tie that into your, if you want to call it marketing, yeah, it is marketing. Using it into social media and into your web page, and even in presentations that you may do, how to incorporate that all together. But that's just an example of what we're doing next month. So what I do is I offer a group type of a get-together, and even, again, it's about giving in this instance. Yes, I do invite people to come to this free as a guest and see if it's a fit for them. I get to know them, they get to know me, but they also, even more importantly, and back to what we were talking about for the network and the resources, they get to know a whole group of people
Yeah.
in an intimate setting of understanding who they are and what they're all about in their business.
Huh?
And then from there, determining, again, if someone's interested, obviously we have a further talk about working on a more one-on-one personal note.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears slightly, because one of the things you and I wanted to talk about was the sort of the place of small business in the U.S. economy, and I primarily work with entrepreneurs, and it sounds like you do as well.
Yep.
So how does the entrepreneur fit into that sort of national picture economically?
Oh, yeah, Kevin, I'm so glad you brought that up again, because when you think about that, there are like 23 million small businesses in the U.S. alone.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, when we look at our economy, over 99% of all the businesses in the United States are made up of small business.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And people talk about, oh my gosh, the economy is so bad, and it's really about what the individual makes out of that.
Right.
And so, have you defined what a small business means? Do you feel that?
To my audience or to myself?
Yeah, to your audience.
Not necessarily. I mean, what is your working definition then of a small business?
Well, when you look at the Small Business Administration, the governmental source there, they define it as a manufacturing business organization that has 500 or less employees is considered small business.
Okay.
Or as a whole, the average gross receipts is 7.5 million or less.
Okay.
So that's an average. But when we look about what most of it is some of the statistics are staggering. The average income is a little over $71,000, so less than $75,000 for the business owner. And most of them are actually one employee or less, that one employee being the business owner. That's pretty much the standard.
How can they be less? How can they be less than one?
Oh, I'm sorry, not less. Yes, so.
Oh no, okay. I thought you had something profound that I hadn't. That I didn't know. So they're completely
now with the
automated.
virtual world, you never know. So I apologize.
True.
Yeah,
No.
one employee. So like 30% of small businesses are made up of one employee, and average 3 or less.
Okay, I see.
So, yeah, you're listening. That's good.
That's what we do here.
That's always good. And yeah, so we have a number of individuals. The large businesses over the last 25 years, the large businesses have cut over 4 million job positions.
Yeah.
The small business has increased and created over 8 million job positions.
Yeah.
So that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I remember reading recently actually that the numbers, because they'll say that I don't know the specific numbers now, but it was something like 50% of all new businesses fail within the first year or something along those lines.
Right.
But that number is skewed because they are drawing from bank account data. So the number of businesses that close business accounts with banks, that's how they're determining whether or not that business failed.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, and the reality of that is that a lot of businesses do things like, entrepreneurs, we'll say contractors and freelancers, we start a business account with a bank because we get something out of it, no fees, or we get a freebie or whatever. And then when the time period's up, we switch to another bank.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So those numbers are really skewed.
Well, they are, but what are the strengths that cause the success? We look at the perseverance, that doggedness of the individual, the experience that they've had in the past, and their willingness to learn and to improve over and over. But the biggest source of success is always passion.
Yeah.
Having that passion for what you're doing, and that in itself is already going to attract your market.
Yeah, and of course there's more. I mean, you got to do something. You got to produce something. But yes, because I will tell you from personal experience that the only thing that keeps you coming back day after day to something that's not paying you is your love for that work. So
Yep, and there's that perseverance, and you
Yeah.
know we all say that. Well, I didn't know it was going to be as hard as this. Yeah, you never know how hard it is until you're living through it. But
No.
just keep that vision, and even if it's just the fact of writing it down on sticking it in your bathroom mirror every morning, you see that I am doing this because
Yep.
this is the result I'm anticipating.
Yep.
It really helps to support you.
Yeah, so I interviewed Tara Jacobson, who's a marketing guru, and she said that the most important thing is to find your why, and that's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's exactly what you're saying.
absolutely on that. And also, you're not in this alone.
Yeah.
Look at the Olympians. How many Olympians made it to their level without a coach?
Yeah, only Larry Bird. But none.
Well,
yeah, we know that.
yeah. But the coaching factor, and again, this is the coaching or consultant, whichever. But you need someone to ride this with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does not indicate weakness. It indicates even further strength when people work with others, and that's where roles like you as a coach for the authors, delivering that message, and whether it's small business on my perspective, but people need someone to bounce their ideas off and to kind of hold them accountable, give them a little feedback.
Yeah, and that comes back to our discussion earlier about communication and relationships, right? Yeah, that's where that help comes from. That's where your team comes from.
Exactly.
All right, so you're an independent publisher. Your publishing company or your brand or your imprint is Mission Tish. Why don't you tell me a little about that?
Well, Mission and Tish are two little characters that my mother came up with over 30 years ago. And she had actually just written the story as a homework assignment in a college class that she had made. And then she, for some reason, decided to make some more, and they were just really attractive, and we loved them, and our kids fell in love with them, and we heard it over and over. And when we got so much positive feedback, it finally was, okay, my mother had sent it to a publisher and, of course, got turned down 25 years ago. And when you think about Dr. Seuss, how many times was he turned down? And we look at the Harry Potter series, how many times was that turned down? That perseverance, got to keep going.
Yep.
So you hit the right match. Yeah. So I just didn't have the time to wait to go through all of these and realized, for my parents' sake, because my mother was in her late 80s, celebrating her 90th birthday just in a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. And so went through understanding how the nuances work, go forth, and got the book published then as an independent publishing company. We've already won multiple awards, and it's been featured in some of the other, like the community news and the newspapers. So it's doing well, and we've developed a whole program to engage children to think, be creative, and the value of having confidence in their own creativity. So that we've established the jamborees for that.
And how many books are there right now?
Well, she has written approximately 10. We have published the one.
Okay.
With the intention of publishing additional ones every year or two.
Okay.
And so it's a whole series. But the biggest thing that we want to do is we have an opportunity for children, when they understand the formatting and how to do this, that we are inviting children to write their stories with Mission Tish so that we can publish their work.
Which I think that's my favorite part about what you're doing.
It is fun.
Not that I don't appreciate what your mother did and what you are continuing to do, especially as a 90-year-old. But the idea of making this something, an open world of sorts, we see this in fiction a lot now, a lot more now. And there's like Kindle worlds and that sort of thing. But this idea of opening it up for children to be contributors, I think that's fantastic.
It is, and when you think about the greatest. The peak of creativity in a human life is at 5 years of age.
Yeah.
And that's where we're focusing and getting those kids. And
it's all downhill from there, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm on a board for a publishing association and also for the education literacy program. And our biggest intention there, too, is just allowing people to understand you can do this. There are resources, and especially in today's technology, there are so many resources. But getting it done right.
Yeah.
And that's where if people can't do everything on their own, use the skills, the experiences of people around you.
Yeah. So what are some examples of things that you guys had to go outside of yourselves for with Mission Tish?
The layout, the digital formatting of the layout, getting the book done, obviously the printing, and then the book binding, which again we did all local.
Yeah.
The local printers and the local bookbinders, it was hand sewn. So, and doing that gave us so much more experience. I have video of every step of how this book was created.
Oh wow, that's great.
It was such a learning experience. It was so much an opportunity just to see it happening, and it made it so much more real.
Yeah.
It was definitely the greatest opportunity.
Are you planning to do anything with those videos?
Oh, of course. Well, there's some of them on our Pinterest account, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I think all of them are on our Facebook. So yeah,
well, I told you earlier I'm just completely inept at Pinterest, so I'll never get to see them.
Well, which is why they think they were about the only ones on there. But the Facebook is a little more active. There's a lot more there, and we have a lot of stuff on our webpage too that describes it and has the submission opportunities.
All I have to do is tell my wife, go find this on Pinterest, and she'll inundate me with a bunch of stuff. So I'll take care of it.
Well, our search engines are so powerful. It's always in our, we want to make it in our favor, and we certainly can use those resources.
Yeah. No, that's great. Actually, speaking of Pinterest, I know this is slightly off topic, but I recently realized that every time I write a blog post or post a one of these podcasts, I create an image for it, and I've recently came around to the idea of making them something that could be shareable all on their own. So if it's the image for that week's podcast, it has a quote that might be shareable along with the person's photo. And then I have, every time I post a blog, I have some image that has something that can be shared. And it's amazing. I never thought of it before, but I recently started putting all that on Pinterest and letting that get shared. So it increases your reach. It's really weird.
It is amazing, and just that hint itself, I'll take that. And
yeah, you should totally.
Myself, so,
no, yeah, nothing is sacred here in Wordslingerville. You can steal anything. All the slingers know that they can. Well, they should know, slingers. You should all know that you can go and steal anything that I say. So go do it.
Well, resourcing. I actually know someone who will take your quotes and put them into one of those beautiful imaging things. Mm-hmm. And putting it on Facebook so that it can be shared along too, and it's another way of becoming more visible, but also sharing your knowledge and your wisdom.
Okay, yeah, that's good. You know someone who does that? You said?
Yeah.
Do you want to give them a shout out?
Of course. Her name is Sharon DeBard. Oh, and I'm looking right now quickly to see what the.
I'm going to add it to the show notes.
Let me see here. Sharon DeBard is her name. She is based here in Denver area. And the website is mastersquote.com, mastersquote.com.
Okay.
And so she will make some phenomenal pictures and images, graphics, with your logo, with special backgrounds, and then you can share that on Facebook. And it'll be another great way to expand your reach out to other people. Perfect.
I will. That will be in the show notes for anybody interested. Mastersquotes.com. Talk to Sharon DeBard. I'll look that up. Yeah, thanks for that tip.
She's a great lady.
I use Canva, which I don't know if you've heard of that. And Guy Kawasaki is kind of the evangelist for that, but it's a sort of a quick and easy way to do. You can do everything from book covers to social media photos or whatever. I am an avid Photoshop user, but it has its drawbacks in the size and time. And I found Canva was very quick and easy. I can literally drag and drop a photo in, and I have a resource for some free stock photos. So that was the way I went. So. Another tip.
Well, the other nice thing that she's developing with this is she's developing a library,
Okay.
So the point being that it's another way to elevate each other up, so people that are in this community can resource each other and introduce each other. So the same way that I just introduced Sharon, I can now resources and get to know other people. So that's the
that's very
ultimate
cool.
what she's developing. So it's a true library. Back going to the developing and maintaining the relationships and who people are.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Okay, now
Yeah.
now you know you have to introduce me to Sharon now, so that
I
and
will do that. She's pretty
and
happy.
I want to get her on the show now because it sounds like she's doing something cool. So tell her I'd like to talk to her about
Yeah.
being on the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
See, I commit to that on air so that I can't
Very
go back on
good.
it.
You'll have to ask her about the Lamborghini ride that she's in.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, okay.
She's
So
gonna
we've already
drive
got
a
some
Lamborghini.
stories. Okay, so we're coming up. We've actually passed my usual time to wrap things up, but I have really enjoyed talking to you, and I think we've gotten a lot out of this. You've been a very insightful guest, so I'm really glad you were on the show. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
thank you. I'm very happy to be here anytime.
I know we didn't quite get to everything that you had this whole list of really
Oh.
cool important topics set, and I'm like, wow, you were by far the most prepared guest I've ever had on the show. So
Oh, well, that's that analytical part of me.
hey, I understand. No, we come from the same world. I get it. We are all
That's-
about having something in the back pocket. So
That's right. Well, again, it's been a pleasure anytime, Kevin.
and if someone wants to reach out to you, well, first of all, they can find you at goingbeyondstrategy.com and missiontish.com, both of which are going to be in the show notes. But if they want to talk to you about consulting for their. So I talk to a lot of authority businesses now. Can the solo? You said you work with the solo entrepreneurs, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Whether it's startup or they're at a phase and they just need to bump up to the next level, absolutely.
Very cool. All right. So you heard her, everybody. Get out there and get on her website. Give her some love. If they have questions, I have a number that they can call in. So if anybody calls and asks a question specifically for you, I'll pass it along. But
Absolutely, be happy to answer them, or they can also email me, whatever works best.
perfect. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope you loved this interview as much as I did with Ingrid Pyka. Man, I have butchered your name 3 times in a row now. Ingrid Pyka.
I'll answer to anything.
Yeah, wow. That was me rolling and not having control of my tongue. So thanks, everybody. Tune in next time. And thank you again, Ingrid. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Have a great day, Kevin. Bye.
Okay, well, that was Ingrid Pyka. And that was a great interview. The book, the kids' book stuff, that's a topic we haven't really talked about a lot on this show, but it's really interesting. I haven't dug in and downloaded the book or bought a physical copy of the book. I was looking at it on Amazon. Now that I have someone who might be able to appreciate that book in the form of a tiny little facker, I may pick that up as something he can read to her or something along those lines. That would be cute, and it would encourage creativity later. So, so we'll do that. So that was Ingrid Pyka. She's a consultant, speaker, author, independent publisher. She's a lot of stuff. She's like me. I kind of just collect titles as I go. It's sort of a hobby, and I like that concept, by the way, of treating entrepreneurs, kind of like. A doctor treats patients, or a vet treats animals in this case, and not to. I don't want to degrade or denigrate, I guess, entrepreneurs, but sometimes we need a little handling. Sometimes we need that kind of help. We need that kind of care. So it's great to know there's someone out there doing that. If you are an entrepreneur and you think that possibly you might want to improve maybe your copywriting skills, or develop a daily writing habit, or maybe you need to write a book and you're having trouble figuring out how to get started, why don't you give me a call? You can go check me out. If you come to the wordslingerpodcast.com website, you can actually click on my services link. Actually, it's no longer a services link as of now. It's coaching and consulting, or consulting and coaching. I don't remember the order at this exact moment, but I changed that. I wanted to keep consulting in there because I do that for businesses, generally larger businesses, and I do a lot of work, kind of just giving these like corporations and startups and that sort of thing, guidelines and strategies for development from a marketing standpoint. So I want to keep that in there. But I also do a lot of coaching directly to people who want to start an authority business, or a lot of my coaching is centered around writing, to be honest. So that's kind of the main focus of my work. Is I can help you develop a good writing habit. I can help you, improve your copywriting. I can help you, get that book started and get it finished. I've got a process for that. I could actually give you my process for writing a book in 30 days or less. So you should definitely come talk to me if that's something you're interested in. And I don't get this out of the blue, by the way. I just actually I've started interviewing a lot of copywriters I know who are successful in the industry. I've been doing this most of my life, frankly. I mean, I've written professionally since I was about 12 years old. Started writing for newspapers and that sort of thing that young. I wrote before that too. I wrote as far back as at least 5 years old-ish. I was writing, I wrote my first book on notebook paper. I tell this story all the time. So I've been at that game for quite a while. I know writing inside and out. But it's funny because as well as I know that subject, and as much as I consider myself an authority in that, and others consider me an authority in that, it seems that every day I learn something new. Every day. I'm 42 and some change right now, and I've spent every day of my life learning something new about this craft. So I think it's a little like Othello, it takes a minute to learn, a lifetime to master kind of thing. And I think that's it. Once you know how to write, writing, it's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. Once you learn how to write, you're just starting out. Mastering it takes your entire life. And so for those of you who feel discouraged about writing, who feel like it's just too difficult, I want to encourage you. I want you to know it's not, it is difficult. It is a challenge, but it's not something that's so challenging that you can't overcome it or that you can't use it. And you can actually be very effective at this. So if you've thought about writing a book, fiction or nonfiction, you want to write speeches, you want to write better copy for your website, talk to me, because I'll tell you this too. If you can't get better at this, and I believe you can, but if you feel like you need some immediate copy work, I've got copywriters who work for me, so I can also set you up on that front too. But come talk to me about improving in that area of your life, because writing, frankly, can change your life. I mean, you can use writing to define your career. You can use writing to define your life. I use writing every day to shape how my day is going to go, to shape the attitude I have, to shape my goals for my day and for my life. So you can do that too. So come check me out. You can visit me at wordslingerpodcast.com or kevintumlinson.com. They both go to essentially the same place. Click on the consulting and coaching button that's in the menu bar. And that's going to take you to my You Can Book Me page, where you can actually see my rates and see what I offer. And I do offer a free 15-minute consultation via phone or Skype. I prefer Skype. And I tend to record those so I can give those to you after the fact. So, that first session, I will talk to you about what you already have, the resources you already have. I will talk to you about some ideas about where you can go with it. You'll get something useful out of that 15 minutes, I promise you, and you'll be able to take it with you. So do that, set up a call, we'll chat, and what we try to determine in that is not only what you have and what you need, but whether or not I could actually be useful to you, because sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm not the coach for you, or sometimes, maybe I don't feel like I can add value to what you're doing. Maybe you're beyond. Maybe you have skills that are already developed beyond what I can nurture. Maybe you're already too good at it. You never know. And in that case, I find other ways to help you because I am a strategist at heart. I can figure out, based on what you need, I can figure out a way to get you there. I'm usually the guy who knows a guy. So just talk to me. We'll start with free 15 minutes, and then you've got the plans right there in front of you. You can see what else we have to offer and what you can expect, and we'll roll from there. So go check that out, wordslingerpodcast.com. And please, if you have any questions for the show or Now, I'm going to open this up. I think I'm going to start doing this from now on. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, I would love to have you. You can be kind of a guest by proxy. Why don't you call and leave me a voicemail on any topic you want? If you want to discuss, something a past guest has said, or you want to discuss the idea of authority businesses or copywriting or writing books or any of those things, give me a call, 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673, where you can talk to me about anything, and I'd love to hear from you. If you leave me a voicemail, I will play it on the air unless you tell me otherwise. And you can also do this from the website at wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can click on the speak pipe button. It's right there floating on the right-hand side of the screen, little orange tab. Click that, and you can leave a voicemail from either your computer or your phone. And, that works on Android, iPhone, anything else. You can do it from your iPad. So there you go. There's no reason not to call. So 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. You can also email me, by the way, from the wordslingerpodcast.com website. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, if you're liking it and you like the content, feel free to drop in and support it on Patreon. If you click on Fund Me on wordslingerpodcast.com, that'll take you straight to the Patreon campaign. Every dollar counts, and I appreciate that. And then hopefully you're getting a lot out of this, and please let me know. Please get in touch as soon as you can. Also, go check me out on iTunes, where you can rate the show. Give me 5 stars. I love them. And if you could leave me a review, that will help a lot. It'll extend the reach of the show. So take care. Next time, we're going to have another great guest. And I would tease them, but I feel like I've just said too much already. So, but definitely tune in, because we got some brilliant people lined up. I've already got the interviews recorded, and I got more coming in every day. So lots of stuff ahead, and it's going to be very beneficial to you. So tune in often, and I will see you next week.
Word Slinger.